A damning review into a system that failed Malachi Subec, a 5-year-old murdered by his caregiver in November last year, has been released, along with 14 recommendations to close critical gaps. The chief executives of Oranga Tamariki Ministry for Children, New Zealand Police, the Department of Corrections and the Ministries of Social Development, Education and Health say they'll make changes into the way they identify and respond to suspected child abuse after the independent report by Dame Karen Poutasi. Lady Tūreiti Moxon nor Ngāti Pāho Wera, Ngāti Kahungunu Ngaita, who is Managing Director for Te Kōhao Health and Chairwoman of the National Urban Māori Authority, is with us now. Tēnā koe, Lady Tūreiti, thank you for joining us.
Tēnā koe, Neil. Ka nui te mihi.
Now, the report makes for shocking reading. What were your first impressions of Dame Karen's review?
Well, I think it's another example of trying to fix up a system that is systemically broken. It's another example of trying to fix up the internal breakdowns of all our government departments, and it's never going to happen unless we do have transformational change, and that's really something that I have been, speaking out for and asking for a very long time.
Now, the agency said they'll make changes. How critical is it then that this is done urgently to ensure that no other tamariki suffer the same as Malachi?
Well, this is a very sad situation, but these are systemic failures of all of these agencies. And this has been going on for a very long time. This is not the first report that's come out about Oranga Tamariki. They've had 3 reports this time round, one from the executive, the chief operating officer, they've had so many. And yet, here we go again, giving them another chance and another chance and another chance. How many chances is one expected to give without any heads rolling? And that's what we need to be saying very clearly, Neil, is that we need to change the way things are done, and Māori need to be looking after our own and doing things for ourselves, rather than the Crown or the state thinking that it has all the answers for all of us.
Now, Lady Tūreiti, 6 government agencies are involved in this, and why is it important that responsibility is taken by all agencies and not just Oranga Tamariki?
I mean, how much is a life worth? How many more babies need to die before we actually change the way we do things in our country? And how many lives need to be lost because of these systemic failures and the fact that the system is so broken? How many? Ka nui te aroha ki te whānau. And that's my cry. My cry is, it doesn't matter whose child this is. It doesn't matter. Any child, any loss of life is really, really important, and we must acknowledge that. And right now, I don't believe that that's happening.
Who would you like to see standing up and speaking against this?
Well, I would like all of us to stand up and speak against this, because it's really very important that we start to share and look very seriously at sharing power with those who can look after it themselves. That we start to share things in a way, and resources in a way that this government has actually not really done very well, because it believes that it has all the answers and that it is the kaitiaki of all of us, when in actual fact they have failed us so many times and will continue to fail us so many times on the backs of our people's suffering and misery. And it's got to stop, and we've got to say, te katoa o tātou, to say enough. It's time for change.
Now, recommendations from the review include Oranga Tamariki vetting the caregivers appointed to look after children whose parents are imprisoned, and another is for professionals tasked with the care of children to be required by law to report signs of abuse. How effective do you feel these could be if approved?
Well, I actually think they're not effective at all. And as much as we've had that law whereby everybody and anybody should mandatory say what's going on, any one of them could have stopped this. Any one of them could have looked closer. Any one of them could have used their common sense, but they didn't. I mean, you can't take away from people common sense. The boy had bruises. The boy was obviously suffering, and yet no one did anything. So what's that tell us? That basically tells us they're the wrong people who should be doing the work that is needed and required. And I'm certainly a big advocate for Māori looking after ourselves and being resourced to do so in a way that will actually be much more conducive and better off for ourselves.
And this is one of the most surprising things to me, is that people had to have known and no one said anything. Now, the Minister of Children, Calvin Davis, says he wants more policy and more research work to be done before he agrees to these recommendations. Do you agree with this?
Well, how many more people need to die? How many more reports need to be written? How many more fixing up and doing up and doing what we're doing is going to take this transformational change? None of it's going to take it. It's systemically broken. It's been systemically broken for years, and the people who have kept all these government departments alive have been us, have been Māori, have been, and we've been just, shuffled off from oranga tamariki to corrections to boys' homes, girls' homes, to mental institutions. We have been just shuffled along, and all that time they are filling their own pockets with all our misery. And filling them with money that should actually be given to our iwi, our hapu, and our whānau to look after ourselves. And it should have been done a long ago, Neil. And I tell you what, it's depressing. It's absolutely depressing that we have to keep saying the same thing over and over again, and we're getting the same result over and over again. I mean, isn't that the definition of madness?
One day,
so time to change, Neil. Time to change.
One day someone may listen. Lady Tūreiti Moxon, always a pleasure. Thank you so much for your time today. Ngā mihi.
Ngā mihi.